back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be making soft, chewy sea salt caramels. So let's get to it. For this video, we'll need brown sugar, corn syrup, butter, sweetened condensed milk, vanilla, regular salt, and coarse sea salt, along with a thermometer and digital scale because this recipe is by weight. Let's go measure out our ingredients. For this recipe, everything will kind of be going into the pot at different stages, so I'll be pre-measuring everything, so that way when it's getting hot, all I can do is just take my ingredient, dump it in the bowl, and be good to go. So, first thing, we'll start out with 1 pound of butter, and please know that I am doubling this recipe, so it can easily be cut in half. So, we're going to do 16 ounces of butter. And we're just gonna set this aside. And this actually needs to melt, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the burner to melt a little bit. So I just went ahead and put that on medium, and our next ingredient that will be going in is brown sugar. So we need 2 pounds of brown sugar, which I'm gonna grab a bigger bowl for that. We need 32 ounces of brown sugar, or 2 pounds. I need more brown sugar. Also, a quick side note, I could have just used 1 bag because this is 2 pounds, so I feel silly for having to measure all of this out, but it's fine. There we go, 32 ounces of brown sugar. Our next ingredient will be corn syrup, and we need 24 ounces of corn syrup, which I also need a bigger bowl for. 20 ounces of corn syrup. Oh wait, no, 24. This next part is pretty easy. You just need 28 ounces of sweetened condensed milk, and each one of these is 14 ounces, so 2 babies. And lastly, we need salt and vanilla. And this recipe only calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is just a dash, and we'll add that at the very end. It calls for 1 vanilla bean scraped, but I'm just going to add like a squeeze of vanilla. And then at the very end, when I pour it into the pan, I'm just gonna sprinkle some sea salt on top because we like it a little salty. Now, while our other butter in the pan is still melting before we add in all of our other ingredients, I'm gonna prep my pan, and this is what the caramel is going to be poured into to cool. So I just take butter, and we're gonna butter this pan. And the reason I'm using butter versus anything else is because there's already butter in the recipe, so it's not gonna hurt it if it has a little bit of butter on the outside of the caramel versus vegetable oil or pan spray. Awesome, our pan's ready, and I'll take you guys over to the stove and we'll get things rolling. So this recipe is pretty darn easy. So once our butter is melted, we're going to go ahead and add in our brown sugar. And we want to stir it up, make sure it's really combined really well. And I'll turn my heat up a little bit now that I'm over here watching it. Now that all of that is mixed in, we'll go ahead and add our corn syrup. We'll make sure that all of this is nicely mixed. And now we will add in our 2 cans of sweetened condensed milk. Once all of those ingredients have been added, it is now time to babysit. So basically, we're just going to keep stirring until this reaches, uh-oh, I think I burnt it a little bit. Okay, I'm taking a brief pause while I can because when I was pouring in the sweetened condensed milk, I wasn't mixing it at the same time, and the bottom of it scorched just a little bit. So instead of continuing to cook it and scrape the bottom and get all of those burnt pieces in and risk ruining this, I'm going to strain it really fast into another pan and catch those burnt bits out of it before I continue cooking. And I tasted it, it doesn't taste burnt at all. This is just something that I want to do because I want a smooth caramel, and if this happens to happen to you, this is how you could fix it. And I just have a fine mesh strainer that this is going through right now, and it's actually catching all of those burnt bits, and I'm so happy about that. This is also real candy making, you know? Sometimes things don't go according to plan, and I just feel like especially with this pan, it was just going to continue to burn at the bottom. So I thought, let me correct myself while I can. I'll show you guys in just a second, and I'm so glad I decided to strain this because now my caramel it's back to being perfect. And then we can continue cooking it. This is just a little roadblock that some of you might experience if it's the first time you're making caramel. And it's common, you know, things happen. I'll show you guys really quick what the pan looks like and what these little burnt bits look like. So this is where it burnt on the bottom of the pan. That's everything that I was able to strain out. And this is my caramel now. So it is much better than what it was. Okay, y'all, we are back to business in a new pot. I'm just going to do this over, let's say like medium-high heat. And you want to make sure now that you are stirring constantly. This is going to take a minute to reach 249 degrees like we want it. And it will pop, so I would recommend wearing long sleeves, honestly. Right now we're only at 140 degrees, so we have a while to go. We're still cooking over here, only at 165 degrees right now. So we have a while to go. Honestly, you'll be stirring for like ever, but I promise it's worth it. So right now we are sitting at about 225, and this is the part where it could hurt you. So just be really careful at this part. All right, so we're still like 225, 226. You just need to get a little bit hotter. And then we'll pull it off the stove, add our vanilla and salt, and pour it into a pan. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull it off the burner, keep mixing it. I'm going to add in a little bit of salt. This is when I'll just add in a little like that. Give it a mix. The next thing I'm going to add is going to be a splash of vanilla. Be careful when you do this because it's going to sizzle up. We can go pour it in the tray. Okay, so we have our caramel, and then the last step that we're going to do is just pour it into our buttered tray. Pop some sea salt on top and wait for it to completely cool before we cut it. Now if your caramel's hot like this, I would also like to add that it's perfect for things like carameled apples, or if you're dipping caramel, or if you're making little caramel turtles. This is perfect. It's just very hot. Now I'm gonna take sea salt and sprinkle it all over the top. I'm actually really happy I was able to redeem myself by straining out all of that burnt stuff and putting it in a new pan because these caramels look beautiful. So I'll show you what they look like right now, and then the next time I see you, it will be when it's time to cut them. Okay guys, our caramels have cooled quite a bit. I actually popped them in the freezer for just a second so they could kind of set up a little bit more. And I was a little impatient, so I do have some missing. But I'm just going to take a knife and cut along a line. And then from here, I'm just going to pop it out of the tray and give it a cut. Now they are just a tiny bit too cold right now because I put them in the freezer, but when they soften and thaw, they just become the most gooey, delicious treat. They're just so good. If you like Werther's Originals, you'll like this. Thanks for watching, darlings. I'll see you in the next one.